We take this further now and speak to SABC News International Editor Sophie Mokoena. Sophie, good evening to you and thank you so much for your time. The call from the organizers was for a protest. This did not happen. However, many people did not go to work. Can this be seen as a success?
Well, it was a mixture of stay away, but also pockets of protest, particularly in the stronghold of the opposition like Bulawayo. And therefore, I think it was a mixed reaction. But in terms of success, it's not often where you have this kind of a situation in Zimbabwe. The government is quick to clamp down and to ensure that there's no program of action. And we saw a similar incident happening around 2000 during President Mugabe's tenure, when the then leader of the opposition, Mnangagwa, organized a stay away. And it was almost similar to that. There were no violence. We don't know later today. But the reality is the streets were deserted and business took a decision to close doors. And therefore, the economic activity was affected. In some areas, there were still economic activities. But as you can see, in those visuals we got from Zimbabwe, most of the shops were closed, and therefore that would have affected the economic activity. I saw earlier on some officials saying that it was business as usual in Parliament, but this is what politicians often do. They don't catch the mood when the mood, particularly from ordinary people, is different. They will go on with their business as if nothing is happening and not really responding to what's happening on the ground. Yes, many people stayed away. There were pockets of protest and the police were quick to clamp down on those. But the reality is it was not business as usual in Zimbabwe, in Harare, and in cities, other cities such as Bulawayo. And therefore, I think President Mnangagwa will have to sit tonight with his advisors and try and analyze this situation, and perhaps tomorrow provide a statement or respond to what transpired today. Because whether you like it or not, a stay away is part of program of action.
And this issue of amending the constitution to allow him to continue after his term has, seen some divisions within the organizations, the different political parties, including his own. How intense is it?
It's very intense in terms of ordinary Zimbabweans. And also in terms of ZANU-PF, you have a section that is against this. And they are now rallying behind the current Vice President, Constantino Chiwenga. He hasn't come out clear in terms of his position, and I think he is still trying to manage this and supporting President Emmerson Mnangagwa. And the opposition, some of members of parliament are warming up to this amendment, while others have a different view. And therefore, here it's always politics of the stomach, particularly to those who might support this in parliament and in the opposition benches. And therefore, it is a very difficult issue. We know that the expelled member of ZANU-PF, a former colonel, and who is also a war veteran, is mobilizing other war veterans to oppose this. We know that that's exactly what happened when President Mugabe at that time wanted to continue, and there was a standoff with the current President Mnangagwa. You had a section of the veterans supporting President Emmerson Mnangagwa. He even fled the country, came to South Africa. They were here in South Africa mobilizing to ensure that President Mnangagwa at the time, Vice President, returns to Zimbabwe. And it did happen, and he was later elected as the president of Zimbabwe. So these kinds of events, you don't know where they will end. But the reality is the police were out in full force, as you can see, ensuring that they don't leave anything to chance and to ensure that this former colonel or general in the military, and now who is also we know it's a war veteran, his intention to address people in Harare were quelled. And indeed, it didn't happen, but the city was deserted and the economic activities were affected.
It certainly does look deserted, and as you say, as the president ponders tonight what becomes the response from government, there's a lot to, really take into account and think about there. But Sophie, before I let you go, there is still the developments around the US. We are watching, of course, what's taking place there domestically in their country. Sherwin will give us the latest in that regard. But here at home, you still have a number of South Africans who are still saying, how far is the process of even appointing our own ambassador to that country, given the fact that you do have some people who are watching this who are saying South Africa should not take too much time?
I'm told the president and the minister of international relations are the ones that are really looking at this issue. I heard that there are 8 names doing the rounds, and majority of that pool, the names there, are your professional diplomats, career diplomats, because the government has come to terms with the reality that at this moment you need a career diplomat, not a person who will be caught up in political statements, and that might lead to more tensions. As you heard what the Minister of International Relations said, that South Africa is not going to take a posture of hostility or hitting back, but they will confine themselves within the rules of diplomacy. And therefore, they are looking at appointing a person who will do just that, but also with business acumen, because you know that President Trump is very transactional. And therefore, these are the things that they are looking at. And no surprise, I mean, you can't predict President Trump. What he did yesterday by attacking President Vladimir Putin, also attacking Iran, promising to bomb Iran. He's very difficult to analyze in terms of where to from here. But I think the former president summed it well to say all these issues and this posture speaks to the changing world that we live in.
It really is changing indeed. Sophie, thank you so much for that update. Appreciate it. That's my colleague, the SABC News International Editor, Sophie Mokoena, just giving us the very latest there in the end around this process of appointing our own ambassador to the United States, and certainly a lot of focus on that particular story.